Today I want to talk about some burning questions I know diehard OU fans have for Lincoln Riley ahead of media days. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today, I want to talk about some burning questions I'm sure OU fans have for Lincoln Riley ahead of Big 12 Media Days. For those of you that live under that particular rock, Big 12 Media Days is an annual event to kick off college football in this league of 10 teams that is still named for 12 teams after conference realignment some years ago. It's been almost 10 years since that. Can you believe that? But we get to talk to Lincoln Riley and others out in the open for the first time in a very long time. We're talking about his first really public address comment since the spring game. I know that beat writers have met with him from time to time between the end of the spring and this summer. Now, at the top of the list has to be, how's Caleb Kelly going? Like his ACL rehab surgery, because he was out at camp. He was coaching him up. It was talked about as if perhaps Caleb Kelly might be making his way back a little bit sooner, but I don't think that you're going to have to worry about Caleb Kelly until like November at the latest. And that all depends on how the defense is going. Because if the defense is playing well, I don't know that I want to throw Caleb Kelly into the mix, and I'd probably be more interested in trying to get him the medical red shirt and try to give him one last go at making something of what everybody believed was going to be a 5-star career for him as go along with being a 5-star talent. This guy is what you would call a space linebacker. I thought when he first got to Oklahoma, he would be the kind of dude that fits in at the will position, be able to play some of that nickel slot linebacker, slot corner. He's always been an oversized safety to me. Like, I really do believe that there's something for Caleb Kelly to do, but the scheme that Mike Stoops ran, as much as Mike just tried to thrust him into it, just didn't work for Caleb Kelly. This year, you didn't know whether or not it was going to work with Alex Grinch, but the thinking was he was finally going to have a shot at winning that will spot again after Curtis Bolton beat him out last year. But if he's coming along, you got to believe that it helps your depth at a position where I genuinely believe that Oklahoma is really talented and has quite a bit of depth. I mean, depending on what Kenneth Murray Jr. does this year after 155 tackles last year, you could see a really great depth linebacker, especially inside linebackers. Sean White seems to be the best instinctual linebacker on that depth chart. Levi Draper is up to 245 pounds, which low-key is a very big deal. That dude is 6'2", 245, running around at 4'6" in the 40, to go along with Brian Meade, who came on strong last year and who has been talked about as one of the better linebackers in the entire core this year. I mean, you could get real good real quick with that linebacking group, and that's going to have a lot to do with how Oklahoma is in the middle of the field to go along with the questions in the secondary. But as big a concern as it is as to what they're going to do at safety, whether or not Robert Barnes is going to come back from being destroyed by Josh Jacobs in the Orange Bowl, you still don't know what you got back there. I mean, Patrick Fields feels like he could be a guy. Justin Broyles feels like he could be a guy. Chance Sylvie feels like he could be a guy. Trey Norwood feels like he could be a guy. But that's also to say that you don't have anybody, right? You don't have anybody that you trust right now. You don't have anybody that you know can come up and play those positions. That nickel slot corner is also going to be a big question. So the secondary obviously is one of the burning questions that folks will have for Lincoln Riley about what is going on back there. Is Buki still at nickel, right? Is Jaden Davis going to play some nickel? Jeremiah Cradell, is he going to figure in? Ty DeArmond has an opportunity to make some waves in preseason camp. I mean, the safety positions, all three of them, are really just up for grabs. And I'm calling that nickel slot corner safety position because it kind of is a do-everything. Like, it plays some linebacker. It's up at the line of scrimmage. It has to go back in coverage. It's a really tough job, and you're going to need to find out which one of you guys can hold up against that. Of course, the next burning question that I have, and I know that OU fans have, is Michael Thompson actually going to play defense? And the reason that this is interesting is because Oklahoma has 14 scholarship offensive linemen and 13 scholarship defensive linemen. Now, this is an issue because you need 5 offensive linemen to play football, and in Alex Grinch's scheme, you need 3 defensive linemen for his 4-man front. And that's going to be really interesting. So, obviously, you think you have more depth on the defensive line than even we want to talk about because we don't feel real talented out there. But it could be an issue at offensive line, which is why Michael Thompson staying on the offensive line makes more sense depending on how you progress, honestly, on your defensive line. So you can go either way with that. and Bill Bedenbaugh nailed it. You got to come out wanting to play offensive line, and most guys don't. Most guys come out wanting to sack quarterbacks, get tackles for losses, and play that sort of a position. They don't want to block for a quarterback. They don't want to block for running back. That's a different mentality, and those guys are rare, which is one of the reasons why you count your lucky stars that you've had guys like Bobby Evans, Orlando Brown, and Cody Ford come through the program, but that's also why you're so inexperienced up front, because all three of those guys left a year early because they were that good. Now, you talk about Eric Swinson out at left tackle. You talk about Adrian Ely at right tackle. You don't know where Bray Walker, Darrell Simpson fit in. Tyrese Robinson also needs to fit in. R.J. Proctor needs to fit in. Creed Humphrey's the only guy that we know is going to play offensive line this year, and that's going to make it a lot of fun because we're going to get to see guys develop with Jalen Hurts running around behind them. And I think this all could be to the good unless you get injuries. And you always have injuries. It's part of football. And there seems to be always some significant injury during preseason camp. I mean, you can knock on wood, and I don't have any to knock on here, but you can do it where you're at and find some wood to knock on. But it's Oklahoma, and that's just part of the deal here, man. I mean, we're talking about it with Caleb Kelly. We've talked about it with Levi Draper. Just injuries are part of the game, and you wish it doesn't happen. But if it does, you want to know what's back there. Because I hate this next man up crap, because that's a kid, and you never want to see it happen to a kid. You never want to see it happen to an adult, honestly. But that's a reason why I think Michael Thompson probably ends up playing offensive line this year more than defensive line. It's just sheer numbers on that front. You have the numbers on defensive line. You don't have the numbers on offensive line. So Michael Thompson, thanks for sacrificing, because you came here to play defensive line, to play offensive line. And the last question that I think is really important is about pass rush and Jalen Redmond. Like we've heard, Jalen Redmond is healthy. He's going through summer workouts. They're in the weight room. They're getting their conditioning in. But with Jalen Redmond, we're talking about life or death situation here. Like, I'm surprised that he's even been cleared to play football, because as bad as it has seemed that it could be, you're real razor thin to Jalen Redmond never playing football again after just having learned to play the sport a few years ago. He is a talent. Everybody says so. Everybody believes so. He's the kind of guy that you could think about playing in the NFL if he could stay healthy. And that's part of it, right? Because you draft health as much as you draft talent in the NFL, to say nothing of getting Jalen Redmond to play a full season. So if if Jalen Redmond can play a full season, then you're getting everything that you expect to get out of Jalen Redmond. And then you have more depth at that rush linebacker spot to go along with guys like Joseph Wette, David Ugwebu, and Mark Jackson, who might end up starting at that position ahead of everybody else, with Ronnie Perkins, Kenneth Mann on either end, and then you got Neville Gallimore there in the middle. We'll see, because you also want to run two defensive tackles. We'll see how this all shakes out. But these are all burning questions I'm sure that folks want to know from Lincoln Riley, and I'm sure we'll get answers to at Big 12 Media Days, where I'm going to be broadcasting live the RJ Young Show on 97.1 FM locally in Tulsa, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. weekdays. There's a link in the description below where you can listen to it online if you live in, Cambodia, Bangladesh, Australia, New Zealand. Yeah, we got folks in the channel that watch from those places, and that's really, really cool. Along with folks that listen from Tennessee. Terry, shout out to you. I keep going, but yeah, we're going to get into it. I'm going to have more to say about this, and I hope to do a fantastic job covering this for OU Insider, for the sports channel, of course, for you, YouTube community. Love y'all. All right, that is it for me. Deuces. Oh, 20K is almost here, and we will celebrate.